All right, everybody. Hey, all right. Okay, so today is 20 minutes with Bridgette. It's Tuesday, and the date is May 12th, 2020. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I knew was coming and that I haven't really openly on radio, even being a guest, talked about much, if not at all. And I knew that today would be coming. So today's topic is the Mouth of God Chakra, which is a new chakra. And this is going to be a little bit emotionally challenging for me. It feels like, like I'm letting the cat out of a bag kind of a feeling, right? Kind of a lot of emotions surrounding this topic. So I thought we would just kind of just breathe in, take in some deep breaths in our nose and let them out our nose just to kind of get started. And then first, let's just kind of lean our head over and close our eyes. Just kind of let the stress out of the shoulders and out of the jaw. And then gently come up to the other side. Let the tension out of the shoulders and out of the jaw and the neck. We're going to take a couple deep breaths in our nose and out our mouth. In our nose and out our nose. So we can slow down our system and relax. So we can put on our thinking cap. All right. Okay, I know I only have 17 more minutes. This might be 25 minutes, and I'm just going to try to present information and try to make it as simple. And this is a really, actually, a lengthy topic that probably could be discussed for months on end, nonstop. Let me just turn up the volume just a tad. I'm just going to turn up the volume just a tad. All right, so this is actually the Mouth of God Chakra. Has, I've known about it since I can't remember, since I was 23 when I studied with the Lakota Sioux medicine women. It was part of the work we were doing with people, helping to activate their new chakras when applicable, because not all people are ready and most people don't have a lot of these chakras turned on. They're there, they're waiting in the wings, but we haven't reached a point, some of us. So the Mouth of God Chakra, so you have this throat chakra that comes out, the Mouth of God Chakra, the throat chakra split, and then you have a new chakra that comes out of the base of your head. Now, I'm going to really try to stay out of the airy-fairy stuff and just try to stay with more of the facts. But people do have a lot more headaches these days since 95. A lot of weird migraine-y type stuff with some weird, hazy rainbow type zigzaggy effect. They have certain terms for this, but they say it's because of migraines. But a lot of people have this without the migraines. We could say that a lot of it is induced by 5G. I totally think that's the case. But also we're in an evolutionary period. So that's a really important step. And so I think that like chemtrails and nanoparticles and vaccines and 5G and a lot of this different stuff is taking over, controlling our mind, like long term, like in a transgender. I'm not transgender, oops, Freudian slip, transhuman, sorry, minus the transgender, but more in a transhuman way, because we're in the process of accessing human evolution abilities in the thinking category. So let's talk about a little bit of Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner helped me to kind of really understand this, though I've been working on people. And one of the main things that I do physically is I reboot the brain, that actually reboots the physical body and regenerates all the systems rapidly. So I have been working, I think, as an osteopath years and years and years with the brain connection to all systems, energetic systems, physical systems, mental systems, emotional systems. And so it's just been one of those places that I've gone, and I've read some interesting books by out-of-the-box scientists that talk about, for example, that even, 1,000 years ago, that our brain did not have the capacity to think. Thinking is a new development in the brain, a new evolution in the brain. So we have to talk about this because a lot of people are on the, heightened spiritual narrative, especially the new age stuff, which is more, mind control, because we're actually in the thinking development and thinking ability of the evolution of the human being. Rudolf Steiner talks about the mineral kingdom being a reflective kingdom. That's reflective mirror consciousness, which means that whatever is put onto it, it mirrors and reflects back. So we have this whole thing with the memory of water and how we reflect things onto it, prayer and whatever else, and we get a direct response, like Emoto and crystals, right? Then you have in Steiner's work the lower animal consciousness, which is where we were at before the 1400s, right? 1410 is when we just started to develop the ability to think as a human being. Before that, we were in a feeling phase, which is more of a human dreaming consciousness, a picture consciousness, the way that it's discussed, and the way that I've been putting it together, which means that inhalation and exhalation are the same thing. And, being birthed into this world and leaving this world would be kind of the same image or feeling. Picture consciousness, dreaming consciousness has a lot to do with what the outside world is imprinting on you as well. And this is kind of like where we're at now. Anyway, let's kind of go to the blog. Yeah, so this is kind of like a difficult topic for me, but I did put together a blog as usual. So we have 20 Minutes with Bridgette, May 12, 2020, Mouth of God, new chakra. Remember, this is what the new chakras look like, right? The crystals, this is where they come out of the body, and this is where they circulate, outside of ourselves and spin. So the Mouth of God Chakra is like this rainbow fluorite. That's what it reminds me of, spinning. All right. And then this is the facet on top of the diamond. This is what, when it spins, you can see all these like prisms shooting off, right? So this is like, so I've talked about in other new chakra videos that these chakras are completely different and kind of like how they work. And here's some information here. Crystal chakras are new ones: elements, prism, plasma, fire, sun being, sunlight, cosmic radiation, fire, snake, medicine path. some stuff about, you know, where we're headed with our chakras and where we need to go, and this conversation, and that our blood becomes crystallic structures needed to power new chakras. So, and it's also the more crystalline we become inside of ourselves as we evolve, the more that we're able to communicate with everything, right? Not just dream a dream or be in a dream, like dreaming consciousness or picture consciousness. These are some interesting articles that I thought that I would put up here. Functioning brain imaging, telepathic, lower animal consciousness, consciousness of the higher animal, anthroposophy, organization, the task of the fifth post-Atlantean epoch, and quite a few of these are Steiner's. And defining critical thinking, because that's kind of like where we're at right now. So this is kind of like what I wrote. Mouth of God Chakra moves us from image or dreaming consciousness of the fourth epoch, which Steiner lectured and wrote about, to the current epoch of thinking consciousness that started to develop in 1410, which we're still in. This period will last until 3572. So we've just started embarking on the ability to think. And this is like, you know, why I think I get so frustrated with the mass population, is that it's because they can't think. And everything that's being imprinted on them, you know, visually or sound, dictates their belief system, because it's a picture or an imprint. And then the water inside of themselves, the mineral kingdom, takes that as a memory. Doesn't mean that it's a correct memory. It doesn't mean that it's a correct thought. It's just the water in us and the other minerals are reflecting what's being reflected back to us. And so then we have that in our water. Right, wrong, and different. It's part of a, you know, us evolving then into the picture dreaming consciousness, and then now into the thinking consciousness. So it's part of our evolution, but it's been used against us. And that's the big issue, is how it's being used against us to keep us from developing the ability to think in that part of our brain. All right, so thought of the mouth of God chakra is mostly not opened or working in humans. New chakras were applied to our energy systems in 1995. I believe for the new human evolution taking place with the development of the part of the brain that does the thinking, that is recent. Most people are still in the picture or dreaming lower animal consciousness. They are not thinking as of yet. The memory of water, Emoto, and other work provides that our human structure, including the water in us, picture consciousness, imprintable, reflective of what is outside of us, and the pineal gland and the third eye chakra have helped evolve into the picture consciousness. Now we need to evolve into the thinking consciousness with the use of the mouth of God chakra and seventh eye chakra, and the use of both sides of the brain and critical approach to thinking, individual, which will lead to the collective. The sixth epoch will be where the collective thinking and being will take place and thrive as the next evolution of the human being. So right now we're working with, and all the beings are doing everything they possibly can. You know, I really believe like the reason why we're having so many solar flares and plasma is because of the, you know, sun beings and those energy beings. And they're really trying to send us signals to actually help, you know, help and aid us in this development. So ways that this stuff is being used against us. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do also a I didn't make it onto the, sorry about that. Anyway, you'll see the blog. Sorry about that. I noticed that I didn't do the screen share just because I'm a little nervous about this topic, kind of in how to approach it. Little bit of anxiety. Because it's not something that I've really had a lot of colleagues. I really haven't had any people to, express kind of the work I do and how that relates and things that I see and all that. So if we're still kind of in the lower animal form, right, we're still in this picture consciousness form. Plus we have these mineral kingdoms that are being imprinted on by what's coming at us, right, without question. Makes us a little bit of a complicated being, right, because everything outside of us is causing the imprinting to the internal part of us that's bypassing our ability to actually think things through. And recently I really discovered this with people, like, for example, that I followed, say in legal fields like common law and stuff like that. And I've really noticed that it isn't that they actually are thinking, or, a lot of these scientists and stuff like that. It's just that they are the information that's come at them and imprinted them, they're regurgitating out, right? So it has nothing to do with the actual ability to critically think, because these people are still kind of living the same lives that, they've lived. And so it's also brought to my mind, a lot of my own internal questioning, just about the regurgitation of things that have come at us. And, we could really feel strongly about these things, because remember, we're just coming out of this picture consciousness process, right? Which is attached to the feeling, which is a very new agey kind of process, right? Where they connect them to the feeling, a lot of these movies and everything else and all this other stuff, it really creates this environment for heightened feeling, right? So if they can cause you to heightenedly feel, they can imprint just everything that you've seen and heard into your subconscious mind. And then those are the main pictures and information that your subconscious mind is rotating. And then so the critical mind is a whole different level of the mind and the brain that actually has to be developed. And so we've had subliminal messaging and TV and radio for years and years and years. We also went from analog, which is, the flashing of stuff onto the screen that you're consciously not picking up, but your subliminal mind is picking up. And then we went to digital. We've gone to the digital, where we went from analog TV now to digital, and that has a pulse, an actual hypnotic pulse that you can't hear. So everything that you're seeing is your subconscious mind is downloading, and it's being programmed with what Rudolf Steiner would call the Dark Brotherhood's, control, mind control systems. Then you have a lot of these new guru type people who are trying to train you to mind control yourself, to get yourself to do what you want to do, or, the law of attraction, that you're attracting what you want. I think that's true to a point, but I think what you're attracting is the picture images. You're attracting all the programming in the subconscious mind that has bypassed your ability to critically think, because it's easier just to accept everything that's coming at you than to question every piece of it. And this is like taking place in radio and music. Like I listen to a lot of music that is super mind controlling, not just like with subtle noises or whatever else controlling you in the background, but like just with the languaging, and just the justification of and when you hear it, it just helps you to be kind of like justified in mind control, that it is, you're just there, and it helps you to kind of identify with that viewpoint, and then you never really want to move away from that viewpoint, or have a different identification about who and what you are. So we're in this place where we have to really start being able to critically think, which is kind of a whole brain function. It also plays out, it's going to play out in the Mouth of God Chakra, which is a telepathic chakra. So I just want to kind of talk about this for a minute. The pineal gland would actually help in the picture consciousness as we developed when we were in that before 1410. Now we're moving into the thinking consciousness. We're only a few hundred years in, right? This period lasts till 3572. So we have a long ways to go to be able to actually think things through, think everything about everything that we hear and see, right? And not just be in the picture consciousness or the water memory reflective consciousness, which also, you know, we are carrying. And when we evolve through this, we help the mineral kingdoms and we help the lower animals, and all of us get to evolve together, right, into higher states of consciousness. So the pineal gland and the third eye chakra would have helped us develop that picture consciousness, right? But now we have the Mouth of God chakra, right, that we're starting into. Picture consciousness is not the same as telepathic consciousness. You know, when you're dealing with telepathic stuff, from what we know in this reality right now, we're actually talking about a picture consciousness. And I can do this all the time. Super easy. I can walk into a building. I can focus in on the pictures, the picture consciousness, which I'm super good at, right? Because that's what I got to develop. All of us did the last epoch. And I get to run through the pictures that are imprinted on that environment. So people who live there, violent activity, everything that has come about in that location for thousands of years. It's not a hard thing to do. When you're picking up on picture consciousness, you're just picking up on the pictures and images and the feelings, right? So it's not really telepathic ability that I'm talking about with the Mouth of God. That's a consciousness, right? That's a lower consciousness, actually, that we've had, that we developed through a long epoch period. And now we're in the thinking consciousness, right? Critical thinking that will activate the telepathic abilities of the Mouth of God chakra. But we have to be able to think and critically think, right? Because the information is no longer coming at us in pictures. So the higher level of information, data, whatever you want to call it, is streamed through a whole different aspect. It's streamed through the energy field into critical thinking. So you can't really grasp this stuff. You know, even if you say, you know, somebody's sick and you're thinking about them a lot, and then you get some kind of message, that's a picture consciousness. That isn't like the higher octave of what it could become, because you're still dealing with everything here. When you start to move into the thinking, critical thinking, where your brain can actually think things through, right? Because this is what you're practicing. Number one, it gets you out of fear. It gets you out of control, being controlled. And it actually helps you to connect to information that is further out and in different types of fields, because these beings and this information has languaging that is attached to it, not just images, right? So it has a lot of other things that, in order for you to really grasp it, to really be able to run with it, you have to be able to critically think. And this is part of the next, you know, spiritual evolution that we're in. We're moving away from the new agey type picture consciousness, where I do drugs, I see things, you know, ooh, there were lights and all this other stuff. You know, that's in the past. We've been doing that for a really long time. And now we're moving into the higher energy field, which is the critically thinking process, which is going to, move us into, the higher collective, where we actually are bringing in information in a telepathic way. So the new telepathic system, what we know to be telepathic now that people talk about is not telepathic, it's picture and memory consciousness, right? It's mineral kingdom consciousness and lower animal consciousness. It isn't the thinking consciousness and the critical thinking. So we have two chakras that are attached to that new process and move forward. And like I said, it's taken me, being at 51, a long time to understand the Mouth of God Chakra and be able to kind of work with it and understand it. And I think it's pretty interesting because the last 2 weeks, they've been moving me, the beings have been moving me into a way where they keep throwing things up, preparing for this conversation today. Like I said, it's a really long rabbit hole and it's a really long tunnel. But that's kind of like where we're at. So really important structural stuff, proper cranial alignment, especially on where it sits on your spine. If you have any serious abnormalities, like, your nose, like my nose is still crooked, I'm still working on it. If your eyes are way off, your ears are way off, your jaw's way off or your head hangs, it's really important that you get that stuff corrected and fixed. Find somebody. If you don't know how to find somebody properly to do this kind of work for you, you can always email me, consciousnessofeconomics@gmail, and I will try my best to find you people that can help you work on those things. But it's really important in order for us to move to the critical thinking process and being able to use both hemispheres, and being able to utilize our previous, mineral or memory, water memory abilities, our mineral kingdom, imprinting, reflective, mirror consciousness, and then the lower animal kingdom, the more dreaming and the picture consciousness. And then also be able to move into the critical thinking, which is where we're at now. And it's a really difficult place for people, right? For me, it's been really difficult to watch people my entire life and trying to figure out why they can't think, right? So mostly everything that we've ever been taught is application, application, application. Doesn't mean that we've actually thought things through. Doesn't mean that we actually are critically thinking. Copy pasting, this information, regurgitating a lot of this information is just pictures, right? Ditto sheets with words on them and pictures and all of these things that, are in our minds, which are more the picture consciousness, us in a lower vibration. And maybe vibration isn't even like the word. It's very complicated. But yeah, so, getting to critically think, start asking yourself lots of questions all the time. Does this make sense to me? How do I feel about this? This is what leads you to critical thinking. When we bypass all this stuff and we're just running through our life or checking out or allowing the system to just keep, throwing images and sound at us to keep us in that picture consciousness, which is lower animal consciousness, it's not going to help us to break free. And we're kind of at a time on the planet where most of it's not going to survive and most of the people are not going to survive. And it's because, especially since, we can't seem to use the new developments and parts of our brain that are connected to the thinking period. So yeah, all right, Mouth of God Chakra. Sorry, it's kind of it's a tough one, but that's all I've got for you. Thank you. 20 minutes of Bridgette, and yeah, have a great day.